Good morning. Welcome to the session on deadlocks in operating systems. So we shall see the following things in this particular video. What is the system model for characterizing deadlock occurrence? What are the characteristics that say that the deadlock has occurred? What are the methods for handling deadlocks? How to prevent deadlock? How to avoid deadlock? How to detect deadlock? How to recover from deadlock? All these things we will be discussing in this particular video. So take a system model for understanding what is a deadlock. So consider a system of resources. So with respect to operating system has many responsibilities, one of which is resource allocation. Whenever an operating system is involved in the process of resource allocation, it has to allocate the resources without occurrence of the deadlocks. So for doing so, we must understand what is a deadlock, what are the ways in which deadlock will be characterized, how to avoid, how to prevent, what are the methods we can follow for handling deadlocks, how to recover from deadlocks when a deadlock has occurred. All these things we have to understand. Before understanding that, we must know what is a deadlock actually. So for knowing that, take a system of resources. Take the resource types named as R1, R2, Rm. What might be the resources is your CPU cycles, your memory space, input output devices, all these things we can take as one type of resource. Each resource type in general taken as Ri has Wi instances. Each process utilizes a resource as follows. Each process utilizes a resource as follows: request, use, release. So whenever a process requests a resource, it has to request, use, and release the resource. It has to request the resource, use the resource, and release the resource. So deadlock characterization. Deadlock can arise if the following four conditions hold simultaneously. Whenever in your system model of resources, if the following four conditions are going to occur simultaneously, then we can say deadlock has occurred. We will see the conditions one by one. The first condition is called as mutual exclusion. So in this case, only one process at a time can use a resource. Only one process can at a time can use a resource. If it is so, then multiple processes will be kept in waiting state for that particular resource to be released. Then there will be indefinite waiting time leading to deadlock. Then hold and wait. A process holding at least one resource is waiting to acquire additional resources held by other process. In this case, a chain or a circle is formed here. A process is holding a particular resource and it is waiting for getting a resource from another process who is currently using the resource. So if it is so, and that process who is currently holding that resource will be waiting for the resource which the other process is acquiring. In this case, we can call deadlock has occurred. Then no preemption, the third condition. No preemption means a resource can be released voluntarily by the process holding it after that process has completed its task. We cannot in between suspend the process for releasing the resource. We cannot in between suspend the process for releasing the resource. If any process holding a resource has to voluntarily release the resource without any preemption in between. That condition, if it is holding that particular condition, then we can say deadlock might be occurring. Then fourth condition is circular wait. Circular wait means there exists a set of waiting process P0, P1, Pn there is a set of process named as P0, P1, Pn. They are waiting in such a way that P0 is waiting for a resource that is held by P1. P1 is waiting for a resource that is held by P2. Pn minus 1 is waiting for a resource that is held by Pn, and Pn is waiting for a resource that is held by Pn plus 1. So like this, if a set of process waiting for a resource that is held by other process, then we call this condition as a circular wait. This may also lead to a deadlock. When you are using mutex locks for achieving synchronization in processes, in inter-process communication and all, then there may be deadlocks. In what way we will see that. So deadlock can occur via system calls, locking, etc. In this case of mutex locks, what is the option of getting deadlocks is via system calls, via locking protocols used for achieving synchronization. Next, take a graph called as resource allocation graph, and this graph purpose is to say which resource has been currently allocated to which process. That is what we call as resource allocation graph, or in short RAG. So take this, a set of vertices V and a set of edges E. V is partitioned into two types. So vertices we name as V, edges we name as a E in a graph called as resource allocation graph. And this V is partitioned into two types, P and R. P is nothing but set of processes in the particular system for which you are drawing the resource allocation graph. R is the set of resources in the system for which we are drawing the resource allocation graph. Then coming to edges, there may be request edge and assignment edge. At request edge, it is directed as Pi to Rj, where Pi is the process allocated to resource Rj. I and j are instances of the process and instances of the resources. Request edge means edge directed from process to resource. That is, process Pi is requesting for resource Rj. Assignment edge. So this is directed from resource to process. That is, resource Rj is assigned to process Pi. That is what we call as assignment edge. Resource is assigned to process. So a resource allocation graph will contain all these things. P is the set of processes, R is the set of resources, request edge directed from process to resource, which is in this case process is requesting a particular resource instance. Then assignment edge, in this case the edges will be directed from resource to process. Next one, the symbols used for denoting the various things for drawing a resource allocation graph. Your process will be indicated with a circle. Resource type with instances will be allocated as in a square with squares, small squares inside the square as to indicate how many instances. In this case, the resource type is having 4 instances, as there are 4 small squares within the big square. Next, Pi request instance Rj, that is indicated as like this. Process Pi is within the circle. Resource type Rj, instance will be shown as square. Then suppose a resource is holding or already assigned to a process, means that is denoted like this with a directed edge from resource to process. In the previous case, the directed edge will be from process to resource as a request edge. In this case, the edge will be from resource to process. called as assignment edge. Example graph showing a resource allocation graph. So you take three process P1, P2 and P3. So it is having four resource types. And each resource will be indicated with a square, and within that the dots indicate the resource instances. If there is a single dot, it means the resource has only one instance. If there are two dots, it has two instances. If there are four dots, then it has four instances. So in this case, from this graph we can come to know that there are three processes P1, P2, P3. There are four resource types R1, R2, R3 and R4. R1 contains a single instance. R2 contains two instances of the resource type. R3 contains a single instance. R4 contains three instances. So here resource R1 is already assigned to P2. You can see that from the directed edge from resource to process P2. Similarly, P1 is requesting resource R1. It is called as the request edge. Then R2 is already assigned to P2. R2 is already assigned. First, one instance of R2 is assigned to P2. One instance of R2 is assigned to P1. R3 is assigned to P3. From the directed edge, you have to understand which is the assignment edge and which is the requested edge. If the directed edge is from resource to process, that means the particular instance of that resource has been allocated to that particular process. If the directed edge is from process to resource, then it is a request edge. Here R4 is having three instances, but it has not been requested by any process, as well as it is not assigned to any process as per this resource allocation graph. Next, graph with a cycle. So in deadlocks topic, what is the purpose of resource allocation graph? Is if you draw a resource allocation graph, if it is getting a cycle, then there will be chance of getting deadlocks. From the resource allocation graph, you can analyze this. If the resource allocation graph is having a cycle, then there may be a chance of getting deadlock. If the resource allocation graph is not going to have any cycle, then there may not be possibilities for occurrence of the deadlock. Now we are showing a sample graph with a cycle, but there is no deadlock for current scenario. So you have how many processes in this resource allocation graph is? You have four processes P1, P2, P3 and P4. You have two resource types R1 and R2. R1 has two instances and R2 has two instances. In this case, process P1 is requesting a resource instance of R1. But R1 has first one instance of R1 is assigned to P2, one instance of R1 is assigned to P3. R1 is not currently free now to be assigned to P1. Next, second case, P1 is already using one instance of R2. That is, R2 has been assigned to P1, which in turn is waiting for an instance of R1. Then P3 is requesting one instance of R2, but already the available two instances, one instance is assigned to P1, the other instance is assigned to P4. Currently, there are no resource instances available in R2. Now P3 is assigned to one instance of R2 and other instances has been given for P4. In this case, there is a cycle, that is P1 can complete its execution only when one instance of R1 is available. Similarly, P3 can complete only when it gets one instance of R2, but R2 will be released only when P4 can leave. Suppose in this case there is no deadlock. Why is R2 will be, once P4 completes, it will release R2. Once R2, one instance of R2 is released, then that will be given for P3, which has already requested. When it is assigned to P3, that means P3 will be completing its execution as it has already one instance of R1 available with it, and when it gets the other instance of R2, it will complete its execution and the resource assigned to P3, both R2 and R1 will be released. Once R1 is released, obviously the process P1 which has requested R1 already will be assigned the resource and it will complete its execution. That way deadlock is not occurring even though there is a cycle in our resource allocation graph. Now from this resource allocation graph, the following facts can be induced. If graph contains no cycles, then that means there will not be deadlock occurrence. If a graph contains cycle, then if only one instance per resource type, then there will be deadlock. Second scenario is, even though if the graph contains a cycle, suppose there is only a single instance in the resource type, then there will be chances of occurring deadlock. If there are several instances of that particular resource available, even though the graph contains cycle, means then there will not be deadlock, or there may be a chance of occurring deadlock, but surely we can't say there will be a deadlock. But if there is a single instance of that resource type in a particular scenario in our resource allocation graph only available, then deadlock will be occurring for sure. What are the methods for handling deadlocks? First, we have to ensure that our system will not and never enter into a deadlock state. That is the first thing. As prevention is better than cure, we are in a need that already our system is not going to, it will not enter into a deadlock scenario. So to achieve this, we are having two strategies: deadlock prevention and deadlock avoidance. Prevention is done without the possibility of occurrence of deadlock. Suppose there is a condition that deadlock might occur, we are trying to avoid it. So it is nothing but you are taking some vaccination for preventing a virus. So you are following the COVID rules for avoiding the virus. That is what here also deadlock prevention as well as deadlock avoidance. Allow the system to enter a deadlock state and then recover. First case, we are ensuring no deadlock will occur. How? We are taking two steps. One is deadlock prevention and the other one is deadlock avoidance. Prevention is like vaccination, avoidance is like following the COVID rules for safety, for avoiding the COVID virus. Now, the second scenario, we are allowing the system to enter a deadlock state and then we are recovering. Once deadlock has occurred, we are trying to recover from that deadlock for our system. Ignore the problem and pretend that deadlock never occurs in the system. Third scenario, we are simply ignoring the deadlocks and we are trying to pretend or act like there is no occurrence of the deadlock. This is the third case. Now we will see the methods one by one for handling deadlocks. The first one, it is deadlock prevention. So deadlock prevention can be achieved like this. Restrain the ways request can be made. Whenever a process requests a resource, we are following some ways so that deadlock will not occur. We will see what are the ways. Mutual exclusion. not required for shareable resources, must hold for non-shareable resources. Mutual exclusion means one process will be having one resource at any point of time. It is not, mutual exclusion is not needed to be achieved for shareable resources, but it has to hold for non-shareable resources. Then hold and wait. We must guarantee that whenever a process requests a resource, it does not hold any other resource. Suppose process P1 is requesting a resource R2. R2 can be assigned to P1 only if P1 is not currently holding any other resource. If it is holding any other resource, definitely resource R2 will not be given for P1. This is what we call as hold and wait. So require process to request and be allocated all its resources before it begins execution. A process P1 can begin its execution only when all the necessary resources are available. So that way we are holding the condition hold and wait. Or in the second way, we can say that process will be allocated the requested resources only when the process does not currently hold any other resources. So what are the chance here is there may be a problem of low resource utilization, so that starvation may be possible. Even though resources are available, it will not be given for the process until it gets all other resources. So here it leads to a problem of effective resource utilization. To avoid deadlock, we are keeping the resources unutilized. So obviously our resource utilization will fall down. Next scenario, no preemption. If a process that is holding some resources requests another resource that cannot be immediately allocated to it, then all resources currently being held are released. Suppose a process P1 is currently requesting resource R2, but R2 is not available now to be assigned to P1. Then whatever currently holding resources by P1, it has to immediately release until R1 will be available. That is what called as preemption. We are making the process P1 to preempt its execution and give the all resources it has been already having. Preempted resources are added to the list of resources for which the process is waiting. Whatever preempted resources is added to the list of waiting resources by that particular process. Process will be restarted only when it regains all its old resources as well as all the new resources it is waiting for. Then fourth scenario, circular wait. To avoid circular wait, we are imposing a total ordering of all the resource types and require that each process requests resources in an increasing order of execution. Here we are following order of execution to avoid circular wait. An example scenario for a deadlock is given here. Thread 1 runs in this function. Thread 2 runs in the below function. There are two functions for thread 1 and thread 2. Using mutex locks, they have characterized the deadlock occurrence here. So you have thread 1 executed by do work 1 function. So it is gaining mutex lock by first mutex, second mutex, and it is doing some work. Then it is unlocking the second mutex and then unlocking the first mutex, and it is exiting. During that time, thread 2 is executing in the function 2. Here also it is attaining the mutex lock, second mutex. First it is attaining the second mutex, then it is attaining the first mutex, then doing some work. It will unlock first mutex, it will unlock the second mutex, exit of 0. So in this case, two different threads executing in two different process, they are using first lock and second mutex. First mutex and second mutex, they are alternately competing for that particular resource, may lead to a deadlock. So here another example show with lock ordering. They have given, take an example function transaction. It is taking from which account to which you are performing the transaction from which account to which account, and you are increasing the amount after transaction. So you have two different locks, lock 1 and lock 2. Lock 1, it will be get lock from the transaction. Then lock 2, it is for get lock to the transaction to which you want to transfer. Acquire of lock 1, acquire of lock 2, you are getting the lock. Withdraw the amount from account to amount, and depositing to the two accounts, whatever amount withdrawn from the from. Then you are releasing lock 2 and lock 1. Transactions 1 and 2 execute concurrently. Transaction 1 transfers $25 from account A to account B. Transaction 2 transfers $50 from account B to account A. In this case, there may be a chance of deadlock occurrence if transaction 1 and transaction 2 are occurring concurrently or parallelly. There may be amount reflection may vary. This is what deadlock prevention case. Now next we will see deadlock avoidance case. Request that the system has some additional priority information available. For avoiding deadlock, we want some additional priority information. We will see how to avoid. Simplest and most useful model requires that each process declare the maximum number of resources of each type it may need. So before requesting the resource, each process has to declare or has to inform maximum number of resources that it may need. The deadlock avoidance algorithm dynamically examines the resource allocation state to ensure that there can never be a circular wait condition. So this avoidance algorithm, it first knows the maximum number of resources needed. After getting the need, it will see the resource allocation graph to ensure if the requested resources are allocated, there may not be any circular wait condition. Resource allocation state is defined by the number of available and number of allocated resources and the maximum demands of the processes. So resource allocation state means it will show the number of available resources, number of allocated resources, as well as the need of the process. What is called as a safe state, we will see. When a process requests an available resource, system must decide if immediate allocation leaves the system in a safe state. Safe state. When a process requests an available resource, system must decide if immediate allocation leaves the system in a safe state. Suppose there is a new request and the system will decide whether this request can be allocated or not. If it is allocated, so then the system will be in a safe state or it will go to danger state of deadlock. That will be decided first. So we must know what is a safe state. System is in safe state if there exists a sequence P1, P2, Pn of all process in the system such that for Pi, the resource that Pi can still request can be satisfied by currently available resource plus resources held by all the Pj. Your safe state sequences P1, P2, Pn such that Pi can still request a resource that can be satisfied by currently available resources plus resources held by all Pj with j less than I. That is, if Pi resource needs are not immediately available, then Pi can wait until all Pj have finished. When Pj is finished, Pi can obtain needed resources, execute, return allocated resources, and terminate. When Pi terminates, Pi plus 1 can obtain its needed resources and so on. In this way, if your system is available, then we call it as a safe state. So if a system is in safe state, then there will not be deadlock. If a system is in unsafe state, there may be possibility of deadlock. Avoidance. To avoid deadlock, we have to ensure that our system will never enter an unsafe state. So take this diagram. There is an unsafe state, there will be possibility of deadlock. Safe state, there will not be deadlocks. Avoidance algorithms. We will see how it is going to work. Single instance of a resource type. We are going to use a resource allocation graph. For single instance of a resource type of systems, we are using resource allocation graph to ensure that there is no deadlock. If there are multiple instances of a resource type, then we are going to use the Banker's algorithm to avoid deadlock. Resource allocation graph scheme. For deadlock avoidance, we'll see climb edge. Climb edge means Pi to Rj indicated that process Pj may request resource Rj represented by a dashed line. Climb edge converts to request edge when a process requests a resource. Climb edge means Pi to Rj indicated that Pj may request Rj represented by a dashed line. Climb edge converts to request edge when a process requests a resource. Request edge converted to an assignment edge when the resource is allocated to the process. When the resource is released by the process, the assignment edge reconverts to a climb edge. Resources must be claimed a priority in the system. A priori in the system. Resource allocation graph, here you have two resources R1, R2. There are only single instances, so it is not having a multiple dots to show multiple instances. Here R1 is already assigned to P1. It is the assignment edge. P2 is requesting R1. It is the request edge. R2 is free. It can be climbed by either P1 or P2. It is the dashed lines is the climb edge. Unsafe state in a resource allocation graph. Here also the same example. You are having two resources R1, R2. You have two process P1, P2. R1 is currently held by P1. P2 is requesting R1, which is holded by P1. Now R2 is assigned to P2. R2 is assigned to P2. So the scenario is currently P1 is using R1, which is needed by P2. R2 is currently used by P2, which may be needed by P1. if there is a possibility here, if P1 to complete, P1 will leave the resource R1 only when it completes. For completing P1, again, if there is a need to get R2, then P1 will be requesting R2, which is currently held by P2. P2 will leave R2 only when it gets R1, which is currently held by P1. Here there is a cycle formed here, so there will be a deadlock. Suppose that process Pi request resource Rj, the request can be granted only if converting the request edge to an assignment edge does not result in the formation of a cycle in the resource allocation graph. If it leads to cycle, then that leads to a deadlock, so that should be avoided. Second case, there are multiple instances of resource type in a system. We can use the Banker's algorithm to avoid the deadlock. We will see what is the Banker's algorithm and how it is going to work. It is applied for multiple resource instances type of systems to avoid a deadlock. Each process must a priori claim maximum use. So here each process should declare themselves as how many number of maximum resources that each process will require before requesting. First it has to declare the maximum need. When a process requests a resource, it may have to wait. The process requests a resource, it has to wait until the resource is allocated. This is second scenario. When a process gets all its resources, it must return them in a finite amount of time. When a process gets all its resources, after some stipulated amount of time, it has to return them. It cannot keep for infinite amount of time. What are the data structures needed for implementing the Banker's algorithm? We will see one by one. Consider n as the number of processes, m as the number of resource types available in the system. Now we want a data structure called available, so it is just a vector of length m. If available j equal to k, then there are k instances of resource type rj available. So available is just a vector of length m, where m is the resource types. If available of j equal to k means there are k instances of the resource type rj currently available. Next, max. So max means it is n cross m matrix. If max of I comma j equal to k, max of I comma j equal to k, then process Pi may request at most k instances of resource type rj. Max, so it is a n cross m matrix. If max of I comma j equal to k means the process Pi may request at most k instances of resource type rj. That is the meaning for this max of ij equal to k. Process Pi can request at most k instances of resource type rj. Allocation, it is again a n cross m matrix. If allocation of I comma j equal to k, that means process Pi is currently allocated k instances of resource type rj. Need, it is again a n cross m matrix. If need of I comma j equal to k, then process Pi may need k more instances of rj to complete its task. So available, maximum need, allocation, need. So need of ij equal to max of ij minus allocation of ij. Maximum resources are needed should be declared, and after allocating some of the resources the need may vary from time to time. That is calculated as the need matrix. It is calculated as max of I comma j minus allocation of I comma j. Safety algorithm to avoid deadlock. Let work and finish be vectors of length m and n respectively. Take two vectors, work and finish. Work is equal to available. Assign available equal to, assign work equal to available. Finish of I equal to false for I equal to 0, 1 up to n minus 1. Find an I such that both finish of I equal to false and need I less than or equal to work. If no such I exists, go to step 4. What is step 4? Finish of I equal to true for all I, then the system is in safe state. If suppose there is an I exists such that finish of I equal to false and need I less than or equal to work, then you take the formula work equal to work plus allocation of I. Finish of I equal to true. Again go to step 2. So for all the process you have to check whether it will be in a safe state after allocation or not. So it will be repeating until all process. Resource request algorithm for process PI. So your Banker's algorithm is executed in two ways. One is safety algorithm. The second part is resource request algorithm. So safety algorithm we saw. We'll see resource request algorithm for process PI. Request I, you take vector request I for process PI. If request I of j equal to k, then process PI wants at most k instances of resource type Rj. If request j less than need I, if the request is less than or equal to need I, go to step 2. Otherwise, raise error condition since process has exceeded its maximum claim. If request less than or equal to available, go to step 3. Otherwise, PI must wait since resources are not available. So step 3, pretend to allocate requested resources to PI by modifying the state as follows. Available equal to available minus request I. Allocation equal to allocation plus request I. Need equal to need minus allocation. Need minus request I. If safe, the resources are allocated to PI. If unsafe, PI must wait and the old resource allocation state is restored. Okay, we'll see an example for understanding the Banker's algorithm in a better way. So there are 5 processes P0 to P4, P0, P1, P2, P3 and P4. There are 5 processes in our system. There are 3 resource types A, B and C. A has 10 instances, B has 5 instances of the resource, C has 7 instances of the resource. So the current snapshot is shown here. It is nothing but the resource allocation state is given here. The process, first column has the process P0 to P4. Second column shows the allocation of the resource types A, B and C to the process P0, P1, P2, P3 and P4. Next column shows the maximum need of that particular process of the resource types. And the last column shows the available resources of the particular resource instances, resource types. First we have to find the need matrix as step 1. Need matrix is calculated using max minus allocation. The formula is max minus allocation. So process P0, P1, P3 is P4, P0, P1, P2, P3 and P4 is numbered. Resource types are A, B and C. So what is the maximum? What is the need matrix is max minus allocation. What is max here? Go and refer the previous thing. So P0 has max of 7 instances of resource type A, 5 instances of resource type B and 3 instances of resource type C. What is the allocated resource of A is 0 to P0, B is 1 to P1, C is 0 to P0. Okay, now the need matrix is calculated as max minus allocation. So you have to just subtract the values and you have to write the need matrix for each process. So 7 minus 0, 7, 5 minus 1, 4, 3 minus 0, 3. Similarly, you have to write for the remaining process. You have to subtract the values of max minus allocation. So for P1 it is 3 minus 2, 1, 2 minus 0, 2, 2 minus 0, 2. Similarly P2, 9 minus 3, 6, 0 minus 0, 0, 2 minus 2, 0. P3, 2 minus 2, 0, 2 minus 1, 1, 2 minus 1, 1. P4, 4 minus 0, 4, 3 minus 0, 3, 3 minus 2, 1. So as this way, simply from the given resource allocation snapshot, you are just writing the need matrix using the formula max minus allocation for each process Pi. System is in a safe state since the sequence P1, P3, P4, P2 and P3 satisfies. Sorry. If you are going to allocate the resources in this sequence, that is P1 followed by P3 followed by P4 followed by P2 followed by P0, then the system will be in a safe state. We are going to check that sequence. How we are going to get that sequence? You are going to check for each process and you are going to decide whether the sequence is in safe state or not. So we will say that for this you have to go to the second part of the algorithm, which is resource request algorithm. So check that what is the request of P1. The request of P1 is current. After the current scenario, now P1 is asking for new request. What is the request? It requests 1 instance of A, 0 instance of B, 2 instance of C. We are going to check whether this can be given to P1 or not, so that we are not changing the safe sequence state. Now you have to check whether the request is less than or equal to available. Then only you can allocate. If it is greater, then P1 has to wait. So I am first checking request less than or equal to available. What is the availability after the current scenario? 332 is the available. That is shown here. Request is 102, availability is 332. Obviously 1 is less than 3, 0 is less than 3, and 2 is less than or equal to 2. So the available request is the request is less than or equal to the available. So the condition satisfied. Satisfied means again you are going to check the remaining things. So what is the current allocation? So after the state, after you're going to allocate the need of P1, your resource state will vary like this. So if you allocate 102, that means your availability will change as 3 minus 1 2 and 0 3 minus 0 0 3 minus 0 3, then 2 minus 2 0. The new availability is shown here as 230. Now the allocation of P1 will be allocation equal to allocation plus need. What is the previous allocation of P1? 200. What is the current need? 102. So 2 plus 1 3, 0 plus 0 0, and 0 plus 2 2. So 302 is the current allocation of P1. The remaining is as such. Executing safety algorithm shows that P1, P3, P4, P0, P2 satisfies safety requirements. So after allocating the request to P1, the scenario shown there, the new need, new availability, new allocation. So it will be in a safer state only. Again there comes a request grant for P4 330 and P0 020. With the available resources, whether you can provide or not, we have to check. So using this one example, you can check for the remaining P4 and P0. Next one, deadlock detection. So we saw deadlock avoidance using two ways: resource allocation graph for single resource type instances and multiple resource type instances. The deadlock avoidance can carried over through Banker's algorithm, where in Banker's algorithm you have safety algorithm as well as resource request algorithm. Okay. Then deadlock detection. Allow the system to enter deadlock state. Then we are going to use the detection algorithm whether the deadlock is occurred or not. If it is occurred, then we use the recovery scheme for recovering from the deadlock. Single instance of each resource type will take the detection algorithm here, Maintain wait for graph. Nodes are process. So you are going to use the wait for graph to check deadlock detection. So in your wait for graph, your nodes of the graph are the processes. Pi to Pj means if Pi is waiting for Pj, you have to draw like this. Periodically invoke an algorithm that searches for a cycle in the graph. There is a cycle, there exists a deadlock. There is no cycle, then there is no deadlock. An algorithm to detect a cycle in a graph requires an order of n square operations, where n is the number of vertices in the graph. So resource allocation graph and wait for graph is shown here. So you know what is a resource allocation graph. You see the wait for graph. It just shows which process is waiting for which process for getting its resource. So in this case, from the given resource allocation graph, you are drawing the corresponding wait for graph. Here P1 is waiting for P2, where P2 is waiting for P3, P3 is waiting for P4, P4 is again waiting for P1, and also P2 is waiting for P4. And P2 is also waiting for P5. Several instances of the resource type. First case, single instance. Using the wait for graph, you are going to check whether there is an occurrence of cycle, and you are going to decide deadlock detection. Second case, there are several instances of the resource type, means you are going to apply the Banker's algorithm, and you are going to check the safe sequence. If there is no safe sequence, then there is a chance of deadlock. The same data structures you are going to take as available, allocation and request. Now the same safety algorithm, work and finish, is going to work in the same way. Knows finish of I equal to false for some I, then 1 less than or equal to I less than or equal to n, then the system is in deadlock. Algorithm requests big O of m cross n square operations to detect whether the system is in deadlock or not. If finish of I equal to false, then Pi is deadlocked. So this example shows the example for detection algorithm as the previous Banker's example algorithm. When and how to use detection algorithm. To check whether a deadlock is likely to occur, you have to periodically invoke the detection algorithm. And using this detection algorithm, how many processes will be rolled back to avoid deadlock? That should be decided. If detection algorithm is invoked arbitrarily, there may be many cycles in the resource graph and will not be able to decide. There may be multiple deadlocks. So you have to invoke in a periodical way. Last case, recovery from deadlock. So how to recover from the deadlock once deadlock has occurred? You have detected the deadlock. Second thing is you have to recover from the deadlock once it is occurred. So how to do that? Abort all deadlocked process. Abort one process at a time until deadlock cycle is eliminated. Either abort all the deadlock process or abort only one process at a time to avoid the deadlock. So in which order you can choose to abort? So based on the priority of the process, you can choose which process can be aborted. how long the process is computed and how much longer it will require the completion. Depending on this also, you can do the aborting of the process. Resource of the process as used. Based on all these things, you can choose for aborting a process so that deadlock can be recovered. Using resource preemption. So already a resource has been given, in between you are going to terminate that resource or preempt that resource. So which process you are going to choose as a victim for resource preemption? That is one thing. That should be cost minimal. If you terminate a process in between, whatever already a resource is given, whatever time spent should be minimal for that process, so that you choose that process in such a way you are not going to take more cost for that process. Rollback. The rollback should be minimum if you abort a process. Starvation. Any process, if you select a process as victim many times, then there will be starvation of that particular